Thank you for staying with us. And now we take you to the focus of the day. It is World Press Freedom Day. Today marks, of course, the Press Day on World Press Freedom Day 2023. And UNESCO organized a special anniversary event at the UN headquarters in New York, marking the 30 years since the UN General Assembly's decision proclaiming an International Day for Press Freedom. Celebrated every 3rd of May, this year's theme for the day is Shaping a Future of Rights, Freedom of Expression as a Driver for All Other Human Rights, signifying the enabling element of freedom of expression to enjoy and protect all other human rights. This year's anniversary edition of World Press Freedom Day included a full day of activities at the United Nations headquarters with partners from the media, academia, and civil society. And then let's take a look at a video of the address of the UN chief. Stay with us.
In spite of global changes in human rights issues and efforts by other countries in the world to entrench every aspect of human rights into their nation's constitution, Nigeria's commitment towards freedom of expression as a pivotal aspect of our fundamental human rights has been suspect. It's important to remind governments at all levels in Nigeria that a free and independent media that can keep the people informed and hold leaders accountable is important for a strong and sustainable democracy, including free and fair elections.
For 3 decades, on World Press Freedom Day, the international community has celebrated the work of journalists and media workers. This day highlights a basic truth. All our freedom depends on press freedom. Freedom of the press is the foundation of democracy and justice. It gives all of us the facts we need to shape opinions and speak truth to power. And as this year's theme reminds us, press freedom represents the very lifeblood of human rights. But in every corner of the world, freedom of the press is under attack. Truth is threatened by disinformation and hate speech seeking to blur the lines between fact and fiction, between science and conspiracy. The increased concentration of the media industry into the hands of a few, the financial collapse of scores of independent news organizations, and an increase of national laws and regulations that stifle journalists are further expanding censorship and threatening freedom of expression. Meanwhile, journalists and media workers are directly targeted on and offline as they carry out their vital work. They are routinely harassed, intimidated, detained, and imprisoned. At least 67 media workers were killed in 2022, an unbelievable 50% increase over the previous year. Nearly 3/4 of women journalists have experienced violence online, and 1 in 4 have been threatened physically. 10 years ago, the United Nations established a plan of action on the safety of journalists to protect media workers and end the impunity for crimes committed against them. On this and every World Press Freedom Day, the world must speak with one voice. Stop the threats and attacks. Stop detaining and imprisoning journalists for doing their jobs. Stop the lies and disinformation. Stop targeting truth and truth tellers. As journalists stand up for truth, the world stands up with them.
And all the other freedom depends on press freedom. That was from Antonio Guterres, the UN chief, joining us this morning to have this conversation for World Press Freedom Day is Barrister Bayo Oshikomaya. Good morning, sir. You're welcome. Okay, so let's start this way. The theme for this year's World Press Freedom Day is press freedom, shaping a future of rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all other human rights. How do you react to this? What would you say are the key impediments or the challenges that the press face in Nigeria? I feel like I'm asking you this question as a press man, but then that is what we're talking about today. And would you say that the Nigerian press is really truly free?
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak today. It's a day recognized by UNESCO for freedom, and it's a day set aside to constantly remind the government about the importance of freedom of expression. What I would say is this, that the right of expression is what is guaranteed under the Nigerian.
Let me please just hold that thought. We'll go on a break and then we will return just in a bit.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us, and we apologize for that short break. Just before we went on that break, Barrister Bayo, you were telling us about your perspective on, whether you feel the Nigerian press is truly free. Please go ahead.
Oh, well, let me go back to it and say that this is a day recognized by the UNESCO and the UN to, aside from celebrate those who are in the media field, it's a day that's been set aside to remind the government of every country of the importance of the role and the importance of having freedom of expression, particularly to those who are in your sector of life, journalism. It reminds them of the fact that governments have been daily reminded, and particularly on this day, of the fact that people, the journalists and the media people, have to be encouraged, they have to be protected, and they have to be given a right to speak out for things as they are and as they happen. The media outfits are the go-to for a lot of average people all over the world. I can't imagine waking up any day and there's no news to read, or there's nobody passing out the information. So I think in the Nigerian perspective, the right of expression is guaranteed. It is something that is provided for under the Constitution. Even though the the fact that is there an absolute right, nothing in this world is absolute, because there are gauges and there are cautions to everything. But to an extent, our journalists and media people in Nigeria have a right of expression.
All right, now with the background you just created, which is the ideal situation, if you would want to use that word, especially in a sane environment or a sane society. But in recent times, let us be very honest with ourselves. Today is World Press Freedom Day, and part of, the values that we reflect on is the fact that everyone, regardless of who is in the media, has the right to express themselves, especially when you want to hold opinions or perceptions, whether it is in contrary view, politically, socially, it is about your right. But to be honest with you, have you ever seen in this country, especially in recent times, where individuals, whether media personalities or just average Nigerians, expressing themselves without having to meet with some certain stringent, restrictions, sometimes being risked, to the extent where they are being arrested? We have persons like, Chude, Namdi. We have persons like Deji Adeyonju. We have some persons like Dadiyata, who has been declared missing for some time now. In fact, hashtags need to be trended so as to seek their release. Would you say that we are really being allowed as individuals to express ourselves, especially when our views is in, contrary to that of the, the government, as it were?
Well, I'm not a government spokesperson. I would want to agree with you, and I want to take the side that, well, you cannot confidently say that the people have the powers or have the rights to express themselves in this country. I know there are times that government have gone off guard to try and guard people, to try and suppress people from being able to express their opinion, even though this is a right that is provided for under the Constitution. However, we need to try and balance things out. There's the press is supposed to be the fourth arm of government. You realize that in this country, that is one arm of government that is not taken so seriously, and that is one arm of government that we expect that should be incentives should be provided maximum security should be given to them. We don't see that happening, and you would not absolutely put the blame on the government also. When you look at the influx of so many unprofessional people who have gone into media, the media business is supposed to be regulated, be guided by the NBC. You understand what I'm saying? You have a lot of spring up media houses on social media, in print. Some are transmitting from unknown destinations. Some are, you don't even know, some of them are faceless. And incidentally, because of the social media role, the role social media plays now, you would want to try and ask yourselves that because there are so many unprofessionals that have come into this, so a lot of times, sometimes government take advantage of that, and people who are really speaking the facts are also being treated like those who have come, who are so unprofessional and are giving out informations that are not genuine. But I would not say that, like everywhere in the world, nothing works out perfectly. But I think the case in Nigeria needs to be looked into as regards people forming opinions, people shaping their opinions, people expressing themselves. Government obviously has gone off guard a lot of times when it comes to this.
Speaking of government going off guard, there has been, lots of situations where pressmen, journalists are not, cannot pass information as it is. What I mean by that is you have these restrictions from NBC. There are things you cannot say in your TV or radio station. Tapes you cannot play, music you cannot play, and all that. And these restrictions kind of shut down voices that are supposed to normally give, that are certified, if I'm to use that word, to give information. So where I'm going to with this is, in the US you have Fox News outrightly giving out, they don't care, they just say it as it is. You have CNN coming for Donald Trump, and it's a back and forth. Is your voice against mine, is a conversation, and these people do their jobs. Do you see a Nigerian press where a station or a news outlet can come for a political office holder and put them on their feet and actually hold these people accountable, and nobody is clamping down on them?
Oh, Debbie, well, we're not at that point yet, as we speak right now. But the problem with this country is not a problem of laws, it's not a problem of policies, it's not a problem of what is right to be done. We just need to go back and strengthen our structures. We need to go back and do a proper reorientation. People need to understand that for every actions, there are reactions. There are always going to be reactions. We need to, the media houses themselves have to stand up and condemn some things. In my intro, I said it, there's so much influx of unprofessionals into media businesses. I won't put it at your doorsteps as media people. So I still go back to the government and blame the government for that, because if the government is up and running and alive to it, they'll shut down some of these things before they eat the air, or before they start giving out these wrong information and all of it. I would also want to disagree to an extent that media houses are not allowed to put out some of this information. We've seen media houses go after some of these government office holders, put the informations right there. Yes, NBC might come after you, but once you have, there's a doctrine of, what's it called? Once you're speaking the truth, and you have your day in court. You understand what I'm saying? And all of it. Yeah, we've seen instances where NBC just shuts down, passes fines to some of these media houses and the likes like that. But I know that if some of these actions are challenged, I believe the judiciary will speak up for the truth and the facts about it.
All right. Now, when you talk about, for every action, there are reactions. Now, I'm taking you on that.
Yeah.
I mustn't agree with you as a government agency or as a government parastatal, or whether you are at the federal level or whatever it is. I mustn't agree with you. So when I have the freedom, regardless of the fact that I might not be a known TV outlet, I'm speaking for those who might be on social media, just airing their voices and allowing their voices to be heard. Do I have to be gagged? Do I have to be, arrested, picked up by maybe some certain security agencies because I decide not to align with your viewpoint, even when my speeches might not be inciting? That's my question.
Okay, so I disagree completely. Nobody should be guarded. Nobody should be intimidated, harassed for speaking the truth. Whatever platform you choose to do that with, you just, all you have to do is to show that what you are saying is not, you are not targeting anybody personally. You are not going after some form of vendetta. The fact is that news are facts anywhere.
They're verifiable.
Yeah, they're verifiable. So if you have verifiable facts and you are the first to put it out there, you don't also have to be, I don't have to be a media person. I'm walking down the road and I'm privileged to have an information. Nothing says I have to come to iBrandTV to come and say it through them. I can go on my social media space and say it in as much as I can stand up and prove it. But what I think is that in recent times in this country, when you also do a balance, you want to be independent about some kind of news that people bring out there, you would be shocked and you'll be disappointed about when people just don't verify news. Someone wakes up and says the president is dead and whoever has been acting as a president is someone from another country, and you see right-meaning Nigeria, you see well-educated and exposed Nigerians believe such and play along and even use their Twitter handle, use their social media handle to spread those kind of informations. It's absurd, it is disappointing, it is irritating.
As much as possible.
Very, very much.
Yes, I want to agree with you. As much as possible, it is very, very disheartening to see people throw jabs or say some sort of insightful statement to the president. But are you also aware that there are other climes where, public figures, say President of the United States, at some point in time, people have said things to him, either through Twitter and what have you, but no one has been arrested. Does that not mean that for you who put yourself in the public space as a public figure, shouldn't you expect that from people? Should people now be picked up at different locations because they throw jabs at the president or say things that are insightful? I mean, that's what it means for you to be a public figure.
Okay, so I offer myself up for public service and someone just wakes up and says my wife is a prostitute, or my father is not who my father is and he has no claim for it. There has to be a balance to some of these things. For me, my concern is not even you saying that. My concern is about the layman, an average man who picks on that information and they form that as an opinion. That's what is my concern. I cherish, I give kudos, I appreciate what the media people do every day. They are the ones who sustain the economy. In any economy where there's no freedom of expression, where you gag and intimidate your press, the system is not going to move forward. You're not going to have people understand the proper perspectives, where the people really come in. For me, I think there is a need for a split separation. People go on social media, tag themselves with different names, use pseudonyms, bring out informations that are not true. They are not checked. Before you know it, an average man is reacting based on it. Before we know it, it can throw you and I off the peace that we have right now. So nobody, I don't think you wake up tomorrow and you say President Muhammadu Buhari is a madman, is a fool. I don't think anybody is coming to arrest you because of that. It's an opinion that you can justify.
But we have had cases where somebody threw jabs at the president's wife. And what happened next? The young man was picked up.
Yes. And
this is the same situation we have in Nigeria, where the school was on strike, ASU was on strike. No one reacted to it. But just because an individual from somewhere decided to throw a jab at the president's wife, and then he was picked up.
You have to understand that not holding brief for the government now, because some of us have also had to say things on social medias and we've got cautions and all of it. We're also subjects of intimidation in our daily lives and all of it. The fact remains that no two economies are the same. For some of us who have traveled, you go to Dubai, you see that your WhatsApp platforms are shut down, you cannot use them. Essentially, I think people just need to understand that you cannot, in the name of throwing a jab, go after insulting someone personally, someone's person. You understand? I've offered myself to serve. It does not, the fact that I've offered myself to serve does not open me up to unrealistic, untruthful, unjustifiable criticisms, abuse, intimidation, or harassment. That does not give the line. We have to learn to start doing things the right way. It happens everywhere in the world. I agree with you. People throw jabs at leaders everywhere in the world. Yeah, the other day, Macron, someone slapped or spat into his face. You understand what I'm saying? He did not react. The person was not picked up right there and then. If he was in Nigeria, you understand, you would not even have the privilege to do that. But eventually, the law took its course. You know, so for everything we do, our level of education, our level of exposure is not the same, but people need to be guided.
All right. Let's bring it to social media.
Yeah.
If you notice, in the past 5-10 minutes, everything we've been talking about has been revolving around social media, and that also points to technology. You know, the advent of technology in the world of media. How would you describe it? Do you think it's a blessing or a curse? Forgive my language, because even in the United States, they have the Second Amendment where everybody is allowed to publish or speak their mind or go on air, whether via podcast or Twitter Space or whatever on your social media. For them, right there in DC, it is a problem, because now they've created something that they cannot control. So people keep churning out information, and it's beginning to trickle down because social media is a global language. Everybody speaks it these days. We have it as well here in Nigeria, and there's been strings and strings of, you know, situations where people, like you mentioned, publish stuff. Somebody is somewhere in Iceland, or I hope I'm correct, controlling people in the southeast, telling them you cannot come out. It is via social media, and these things continue to linger. Technology has helped us. We're able to have an iBrandTV today that functions the way it does because of technology. Would you say it has helped or marred the media in Nigeria?
That social media is very welcome. It's a blessing to the world. It's a blessing to us in Nigeria. But my worry is that at what point do we get to regulate it? You know, funny enough, the problem with this country is that a lot of people are not exposed. When I mean exposed, I don't mean they are not educated. A lot of people are educated but do not know that there are laws that regulate some of these things that they do. There's a social media law in Nigeria that has penalty for imprisonment, that has penalties for payment of fines. In fact, the law even allows both to be passed, and you can be fined and still be imprisoned. So, you know, for me, it's a blessing for us. We all wake up every day. We're eager to open our Twitter pages, open your Instagram pages, go on different platforms and all of it. Yeah, we have to agree that we've gone away from the days of print, newspapers and all of it. I see newspapers every day, and I'm not interested in reading it, because a 30 minutes on social media will give me all of the information, flexibility to go from this page to this page and go all around. And I form my opinions, reading different people, reading different things, and from the corners of my house, not having to step out to wait for the newspaper man who sells newspaper. That was what used to happen in our own days when we were growing up. So we carry the news all around on our tablets, on our phones now. So it's a blessing to us, but I'm worried about it not being properly regulated. I'm not saying I would not, by my person, by my profession, by my level of exposure, support any government, any agency, any individual that tries to intimidate, harass, or stop people from putting in the public facts, genuine news, realistic opinions, truthful opinions. I will not be a party to that. Don't get me wrong, realistic opinions might not be opinions which I share, but I would have to bow down to superior, and it's expected for anyone who is willing to learn to always bow down to superior arguments, superior opinions and all of it, because I won't be talking to you about media and I would assume that I know more than you do. You won't be talking to me about law because I practice law. I'm a lawyer. You'll be talking to me about law and come to me believing that you know it more than I do. You might know more than I do, you understand, because nobody is expected to know it all. But when they are just commonsensical things that I am supposed to know based on the profession that I practice, I think you should understand where I come from, and we should balance it. The reason for some of these things is so that we don't eat up the polity. Look at it. You've said it. I agree with you. Someone sits in Iceland and every Monday, by its directive or some other fewer groups directive, because they have the means to reach out to people, they stop people. It's so bad that the governor of the state even comes out to say, no, we are challenging this, and people obey those informal or unrecognized organizations ahead of structures, ahead of institutions that we're trying to build in the country. So we need to guard it, as is still a growing democracy. You can't compare Nigeria's democracy that we were trying to find our foots from 1999 to what is practiced in America. And I keep saying it, some of the problems we have is this. Who has even told us that what we need to practice as a country is democracy? We can come up, we can form our own policies, come with our own style that recognizes our different cultures, our different tribes, and we begin to guide things. Well, there's no rule that says that we must use Twitter, we must use Instagram, we must use platforms that we do not have a control over. We don't know where the server sits, we have no influence about the server. So that means a white man can sit in the US and just forms a pseudonym and begins to say things about Nigeria. Nobody's regulating it. And the mindset of our mindset is very, very broad. The moment an information drops on it, it takes a bigger task to unset those opinions that we form. So that's why we have to be careful with the kind of news that we put out there. And that's why every day I celebrate the professionals, the upright people who practice journalism.
Thank you.
And all they set out for is to put out the right information.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm accepting that thanks on our behalf.
Yes. On your behalf and evidence.
All right, quickly, because we're rounding off now. The press and media in Nigeria is pretty young. I mean, we're practicing a pretty young democracy, actually. So like you said, we're trying to find our food. But Nigeria has remained the big brother of, all the other African countries. And so if this is what it is like for an average press person in Nigeria, you can imagine what it is for people in Gambia, for people in Ghana, and all these other countries, Benin Republic. Where do you see the press in Nigeria, say in the next decade? And what's your final word?
Well, again, I'll go back to appreciate everyone who is in this section. I give kudos to you guys. You are the fourth arm of government. You are not protected. You are not given the right tools. You are not encouraged. You are daily and every minute being harassed and intimidated. Well, I think as we go on along the line, as in another decade, I believe structures will become stronger in this country also. I believe opinions, people would wake up and daily understand. Where we are right now was not where we were 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure.
The actions that an average Nigerian youth, which is a mass of our population, would take 4 years ago is not what they are taking right now. My appeal would just be, let's get Nigeria moving. Let's be conscious about the kind of information we put out there. Let us all have the interests of this country at heart and think twice before we put the wrong information out there, so as not to set this country on fire. If this country goes on fire, the world cannot contain it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Barrister Bayo. Thank you for coming on the show this morning.
My
we had
pleasure.
an amazing time having this conversation with you. It is still World Press Freedom Day. It is our day. We're celebrating. It is still iBrandTV Daybreak. Thank you so much for sticking with us on this segment. When we return, we will take you straight up to what is buzzing on social media. Don't go anywhere. We're still here.